stuck with projects that feel way too rigid.
Yeah, me too.
Which is why today we're ditching those old plans and diving into Scrum.
And I am excited to break it all down because Scrum really does flip the script on how we think about project management.
It's about adapting and figuring things out as you go.
Right.
Right. And to help us with that, we're using Introduction to Scrum as our guide today.
Which is a great place to start since you don't have to be a master to grasp these concepts.
That's good to know because I'm definitely not a master yet, just excited to learn.
Well, then let's start with the foundation of Scrum. Empiricism.
Empiricism. All right, break that down for me.
It's about trusting what you learn from actually doing the work, not just what a months-old plan says.
Instead of saying no changes allowed, you're saying let's see what happens and learn as we go.
Exactly. It's a much more freeing approach for teams, especially in fast-paced fields like software development.
Yeah, software development is definitely known for needing to be agile and adapt.
But what makes Scrum truly powerful is its adaptability. It can be applied to any industry facing complex projects.
Okay, so empiricism is the foundation. What are the pillars holding up this Scrum structure?
One of the major pillars is self-organizing teams.
Okay, what makes this team so special?
Scrum empowers these teams to take the reins, make decisions, and find the best way to reach their goals.
Sounds like it would be a huge confidence boost for team members knowing they have that freedom to really shine.
Absolutely. And because no project exists in a vacuum, Scrum also emphasizes collaboration and transparency.
Open communication. Love it. That keeps those silos from popping up and everyone stays in the loop.
Exactly. Everyone is on the same page working towards a shared vision.
That makes a lot of sense. So how does this actually work in practice?
Well, Scrum takes those massive projects and breaks them down into manageable pieces through what are called sprints.
Sprints, like a burst of energy and focus.
Yeah, you can think about it like that. It's about making steady progress and adjusting as you learn.
This is where that analogy of building with Legos comes in, right?
Exactly. Instead of trying to build the entire castle at once, you focus on smaller towers and walls that come together over time.
And just like Legos, you can adjust and improve your design as you go, constantly iterating based on new information or feedback.
You've got it. And that brings us to another core principle, continuous improvement.
Always learning, always improving.
Right. Each sprint offers a chance to pause, learn from what happened, and make the next one even better.
So it's like a constant cycle of doing, reflecting, and improving.
Exactly. And speaking of the people doing the work, let's meet the key players in this Scrum world, the ones who make this all happen.
All right, hit me with the Scrum Squad, who is running the show.
First up, we've got the Scrum Master.
Okay, is that like a drill sergeant barking orders?
Not quite. Think of a Scrum Master more like a coach. They guide the team, remove obstacles, and make sure everyone has what they need to succeed.
Gotcha. So more like clearing the path for the team than cracking the whip.
Precisely. And next we have the product owner, the voice of the customer.
Ah, so they make sure the team is building the right thing.
You got it. They prioritize tasks and ensure that the project is maximizing value every step of the way.
And then, of course, you've got the developers, the ones actually building the thing.
Exactly. They are the architects and builders, the ones turning those ideas into a functioning product.
They're the ones putting in the work, making it all happen. So Scrum has some tools to keep things on track, right? I love a good tool.
Definitely. One of the key tools is the product backlog. Think of it like a master to-do list.
Sign me up for that. Who doesn't love a to-do list?
This list evolves as priorities change and new information comes to light.
Makes sense. So what's the product owner's role with this master list?
They're the ones prioritizing features, bug fixes, and everything in between to make sure the project stays on track.
It's like they're the master organizer, keeping everything running smoothly.
And then there's the sprint backlog, which is a focused subset of tasks pulled from the product backlog for a specific sprint.
So it's about breaking down that massive to-do list into bite-sized pieces the team can actually tackle in a short time frame.
Exactly. And the magic happens when the team delivers a tangible outcome at the end of each sprint, called the increment.
So it's not just about working on the project, but actually producing something potentially shippable with each sprint.
Now you're getting it. Each increment is like a piece of the puzzle, gradually building towards the bigger picture.
That's awesome. I can see how that would keep the momentum going. Yeah. But these sprints don't just happen on their own, do they?
You're right. Scrum has built-in events that keep things moving.
Like a rhythm or a heartbeat that keeps everything in sync.
Exactly. And it all starts with the sprint itself.
Okay, so tell me more about these sprints.
A sprint is a fixed period, usually 2 weeks, where the team focuses on completing the tasks in the sprint backlog.
So that's the focus work time. But before the sprint begins, there's going to be a plan of attack.
Absolutely. That's where sprint planning comes in.
So during sprint planning, the team figures out what they'll achieve during the sprint and how they'll achieve it.
It's a true team effort between the product owner and the development team.
And to keep everyone on the same page during those 2 weeks, what happens? Are there daily check-ins?
Precisely. Daily Scrum meetings are short, focused check-ins where the team discusses progress and flags any roadblocks.
Like a quick huddle to make sure everyone is still on the same page.
Exactly. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, the team gets to showcase their hard work during the sprint review.
That's awesome. They get to show off what they accomplished.
It's their time to shine. They demonstrate what they've built and gather feedback.
And I bet that feedback is crucial for informing the next sprint, right?
Absolutely. And just as important is the sprint retrospective.
Okay, tell me more about that.
It's a time for the team to reflect on what went well, what could be improved, and how they can optimize their process for future sprints.
It's like that saying, the only way to get better is to learn from your mistakes. But this is about continuous improvement, not just dwelling on mistakes.
Exactly. It's about learning and growing as a team.
So we've got our players, our tools, and now a clear picture of how this whole Scrum cycle unfolds. But I'd love to see it in action. Okay, so we got the Scrum basics down, but I always love to see things in action.
It's really the best way to understand how it all comes together.
Our source material had a great example of using Scrum to develop a new feature for a web application.
Yeah, that's a really common use case for Scrum, especially when you're talking about software development.
It really highlights how Scrum can break down a mountain of a project into manageable steps.
And it all starts with that product backlog, getting everything organized.
Because who doesn't love a good to-do list?
Exactly. It's like the foundation for everything else.
So let's say we're building this brand new web app, and users are already clamoring for features.
Of course they are. Everyone wants the latest and greatest features.
They want a login system, a shopping cart, maybe even a super smart search function.
So in this case, the product owner would work with stakeholders to figure out what those features need to do. Get specific.
And then prioritize them on the product backlog.
Right, because you can't do everything at once, so maybe they decide that having a secure login system is mission critical for launch.
Makes sense. Got to make sure users can actually access the app.
Exactly, so the login system goes straight to the top of the list.
Okay, so we've got our top priority. What happens next?
That's where sprint planning comes in.
All right, so the team huddles up to strategize.
They figure out if they can actually build a functional login system within their typical 2-week sprint.
It's like checking if you have enough time to reach your destination before you start driving.
Right, exactly. Got to make sure your goals are realistic within the time frame.
So the team assesses the scope and makes a plan.
And if everyone's on board, they break down that big goal of building a login system into smaller, more manageable tasks.
What kind of smaller tasks are we talking about here?
Things like designing the login page, coding the authentication system, and of course, building in rigorous testing along the way.
Breaking it down into bite-sized pieces.
And to stay on track, they have those daily Scrum meetings we talked about.
Right, those daily check-ins.
Exactly, a time to discuss their progress, any roadblocks they've hit, make sure everyone's still on the right track.
A chance to make adjustments as needed.
And at the end of the 2 weeks, it's showtime.
Time for the big reveal.
The sprint review, that's where they get to demonstrate all their hard work.
They get to show off that fully functional login system.
And remember how we talked about the increment?
Yeah, the potentially shippable product increment.
It's not just about showing static designs or lines of code. They would have a working prototype, something potentially ready for users.
That's awesome. No wonder the increment is so powerful.
It keeps momentum going, gives the team a real sense of accomplishment.
Definitely. So they celebrate their success, and then it's on to the next sprint.
Not so fast. First comes the sprint retrospective.
Right. The time for reflection and improvement.
The team takes a step back to analyze what went well, what could have been done better, and how they can improve for next time.
So they might realize, hey, our communication was great this sprint. Or maybe we could have incorporated testing earlier.
You got it. It's all about those small adjustments that lead to big improvements over time.
And then, armed with those insights, they jump into the next sprint.
Exactly. Scrum keeps those projects moving forward, delivering value incrementally and adapting to change with each new sprint.
Sounds like a recipe for success, but let's be real, there are always going to be challenges.
That's the nature of any project, right?
Our source material mentioned a few common challenges, and thankfully some potential solutions too.
Which is great because being aware of the challenges helps you prepare for them.
One of the biggest hurdles, and I've definitely experienced this before, is resistance to change.
Oh, absolutely. People get comfortable with their familiar ways of working, even if there's a better way.
It's like trying to convince someone to trade in their old flip phone for a smartphone. Some people just love that old way of doing things.
I feel that. But the key is to be patient, explain things clearly, and highlight the benefits.
Show them how this new approach can lead to better communication, faster delivery, and happier, more empowered teams.
Yeah, and it's not always about folks being stuck in their ways, right? Sometimes it's that temptation to just add one more thing once a sprint is already in motion.
Ah, scope creep, the ever-present danger. Exactly. So how do you combat that?
That's where having a strong product owner is essential.
They got to put their foot down sometimes.
In a way, yeah, they're the guardians of that sprint backlog, making sure the team stays focused on those agreed upon tasks.
Because once you start adding things mid-sprint, things can get messy.
Exactly. Any new requests need to be carefully considered, but saved for future sprints.
So finding that balance between flexibility and focus, that's key.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that can derail a sprint, let's talk about unclear requirements.
Oh, I can see how that would be a problem.
If the tasks on the sprint backlog aren't crystal clear, you end up with confusion and delays.
Like trying to put together furniture with missing instructions. Nobody wants to end up with extra parts and a wobbly table.
Perfect analogy. That's why clear and concise communication is so crucial in Scrum.
So the product owner needs to make sure everyone understands what they're working toward.
Exactly. They work with stakeholders to make sure those backlog items are well-defined, no room for interpretation.
No assumptions allowed. That makes a lot of sense.
Because even with the best planning, there are always going to be those unexpected obstacles.
The stuff that pops up out of nowhere.
Exactly. Our source material called them impediments, those pesky obstacles that slow you down.
So you're cruising along, and then bam, roadblock. What do those look like in the real world?
Think of it like navigating through a jungle. You're bound to encounter a fallen tree or a thorny bush. Those are your impediments.
And that's where the Scrum Master swoops in to save the day.
You got it. They're the problem solvers, helping the team navigate those impediments, whether it's securing resources, tackling technical issues, or just getting everyone on the same page.
So the Scrum Master is like that ultimate facilitator, making sure nothing stands in the way of the team's success.
Exactly. They keep things moving and help the team stay focused on their goals.
That's awesome. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into Scrum, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Remember that Scrum isn't about memorizing a set of rules. It's about embracing a new way of working, one that values collaboration, adaptability, and continuous improvement.
It's about giving teams the power to not just achieve results, but to actually enjoy the journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so you're gearing up for the Scrum Master interview, right? And you've got this guide, Preparing for the Scrum Master Interview, a comprehensive guide. We're going to really dig into it today, but this isn't going to be some boring prep session.
Not even close. We're talking about making you really shine, even when the pressure's on. Because it's one thing to know about Scrum, right? But it's another to make those interviewers actually see you in the role already leading teams to success.
Yeah, exactly. You want them to see you already doing the thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so I can almost guarantee you one of the first things I'll ask is, what is Scrum? Sounds simple, but you don't want to just sound like a robot, spitting out a definition.
Right. You want to bring it to life. And our guide, I think it really nails it with those 3 pillars.
Yeah.
Transparency, inspection, adaptation. But don't just say the words. Think back to a project where maybe those pillars weren't there at first and things went off the rails. How did bringing those elements in turn things around? Tell that story.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. The real world example. Okay. So you've nailed the Scrum basics. They're also going to want to know you understand the Scrum Master role itself. It's not just about, making sure everyone's at the daily Scrum on time, right?
Definitely not. It's much more than that. Think of yourself more as you're a coach, a facilitator, a master of removing roadblocks for your team. Our guide uses those exact words, and you better believe they're looking for evidence of those skills in the interview.
Okay, so have a story ready for each of those, like a time that you coached a team member through a really tough problem, or how you facilitated a super effective daily Scrum meeting.
Exactly. Speaking of daily Scrums, our guide gets surprisingly specific about those. How would you handle someone who's constantly late?
Oh man, that's real.
Yeah.
I've been in those meetings. It can really throw off the flow.
It can, and it's the perfect chance to show you can handle those real-life challenges. And you can do it with a blend of leadership, but also empathy. Remember, our guide talks about understanding the root cause. Maybe that team member is totally overloaded. Maybe the meeting time just doesn't work for them. Show them you dig deeper and find a solution that actually works.
So it's like problem solving, but with people skills too.
Exactly.
It's like navigating those team dynamics, right? Because it's not just about those little everyday things. Our guide also digs into conflict resolution, which can be a whole other beast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's something you're going to face as a Scrum Master. Because remember, conflict itself isn't always a bad thing. It's all about how you handle it that makes the difference. Our guide talks about fostering healthy conflict. So like encouraging open dialogue, making sure you're focusing on the facts of the situation and not, personalities. It's good to have a story ready where you successfully navigated a team disagreement, maybe even a pretty heated one, and guide for a positive outcome.
Yeah, because anyone can say, oh yeah, I'm a good communicator.
Right.
But it's way more powerful if you can give a real example.
Absolutely.
Okay, shifting gears a bit here. Our guide digs into those nitty-gritty Scrum artifacts, like the product backlog versus the sprint backlog. I'll admit, I sometimes need a refresher on keeping those straight.
It's easy to get them mixed up.
It is.
But it's really all about understanding, the purpose of each one. Think of the product backlog as your master list. It's like everything that the product could be prioritized by the product owner. It's the what and the why of your whole project. Then you have your sprint backlog, which is all about the how. Those specific tasks that the team commits to during a sprint to make those product goals a reality.
And that ties into what we were just talking about with the conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Because if those stakeholders come knocking mid-sprint with their amazing new ideas,
Oh, yeah.
you as the Scrum Master need to gently guide them back to that product backlog.
You got it. That's where your deep knowledge of those artifacts shows. You're not just going through the motions. You're strategic. You understand that every change has a ripple effect. You can say something like, hey, I love that idea, but to keep this sprint on track, let's work with the product owner to get that prioritized on the product backlog for a future sprint.
Right, because you don't want to just shut them down completely.
Yeah.
But you also have to protect the team and their focus.
Yes, exactly. It's a balancing act.
Okay, so we've talked about those core Scrum artifacts, but there's another term in our guide that's super important, the definition of done.
Ah, yes. The DoD. It sounds kind of basic, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the bedrock of shared understanding for the entire team. And it's not set in stone. Our guide really emphasizes how the definition of done should evolve as the project evolves, as the team learns and grows.
So can you give me an example of that, maybe from your own experience? Like how a misaligned definition of done almost caused a major headache.
Oh, I've definitely seen that happen. One time, a team I was working with was developing a new feature for an app. We initially defined done as having the feature coded and tested. Seemed straightforward enough, right?
Yeah.
But we hadn't explicitly included user documentation in our definition of done, so we ended up scrambling at the last minute to get it done before the release date. Throw off our sprint goal caused a ton of unnecessary stress.
Oof, yeah, I could see how that would snowball quickly.
Exactly. That experience was a powerful reminder that the definition of done needs to be really comprehensive and agreed upon by everyone, or else you risk those misinterpretations and potential delays down the line.
A lesson learned the hard way. But hey, that's how we all grow, right? So we've covered a lot of ground here, explaining Scrum, clearly showing you understand the Scrum Master's role and navigating those tricky scenarios. But our guide also emphasizes something that goes beyond just the technical stuff.
You're talking about self-awareness, that ability to look at yourself honestly and see your own strengths and the areas where you could improve, which is huge for any leadership role, honestly.
It is, because they're going to ask you about your weaknesses. And nobody wants to freeze up when that question comes.
Oh, they absolutely will. And it's a chance to demonstrate that you're not only self-aware, but you're also committed to continuous learning.
Okay, so how do you answer that question gracefully without sounding like you're just making excuses?
Honesty is key, but you want to frame it constructively. So for example, let's say you're still building your confidence in facilitating those big group discussions. Don't just state that as a weakness and leave it there. Talk about what steps you're taking to improve. Maybe you're attending workshops, or you found a mentor. Show them you're proactive about your own growth.
It's like that growth mindset is a key part of Agile itself, right?
Yeah.
You're never really done learning and improving.
Exactly. And here's the thing about those interview questions. They're trying to get a sense of you as a person, not just a collection of Scrum knowledge.
Okay, so it's okay to let your personality shine through a little bit. I mean, within reason, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Authenticity goes a long way. And remember, you're interviewing them too.
Oh, right. Our guide touched on that. It's easy to get so caught up in trying to impress them that we forget to see if it's even a good fit for us.
Yes. Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask them some insightful questions, too. You know, what's their company culture like? How do they approach Agile? What are their expectations for this specific Scrum Master role? Asking those questions shows you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for a place where you can really thrive.
Yeah, it's about finding that team where your values align, where you can do your best work and feel supported. That's what it's all about.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been such a helpful deep dive. I feel like I could ace a Scrum Master interview now, and I'm not even the one applying.
Huh. Well, that's what we were going for. Whether you're just starting your Scrum journey or you're a seasoned pro, there's always more to learn.
Okay, so you're thinking about leveling up your career with some Scrum skills.
Smart move.
Everyone's talking about it. But is this Agile and Scrum Blueprint program the real deal?
Or just another overhyped online course.
You've sent us a ton of info on it.
Course descriptions, FAQs, the works.
So let's see if it's worth your time.
And more importantly, your hard-earned money.
Right.
It's easy to get lost in the sea of online courses, especially with something as trendy as Scrum.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll help you navigate that, focusing on the practical stuff that employers actually care about.
And you've handed us some interesting stuff.
Okay, let's hear it.
One thing that jumped out from the get-go, they're saying Scrum isn't just for tech anymore.
Really?
Marketing, HR, they're all getting in on the action.
Interesting.
I even saw a mention of it in a recent article about, wait for it, librarians.
Librarians, wow.
Librarians.
That's fascinating.
That's kind of cool, right?
What's fascinating is that this isn't just a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
Companies across the board are realizing that Scrum's adaptability and focus on continuous improvement can benefit almost any team. That's huge for you because it means your skills are transferable.
Okay.
You're not stuck in one lane.
Okay, that's exciting.
Right.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's talk about this blueprint.
Okay.
They've got this whole tiered system. Starter kit, Meteor Senior. Sounds kind of like a video game, right?
A little bit, yeah.
And of course, each one comes with a hefty price tag and promises of amazing certifications.
And while certifications can be valuable, it's important to look beyond the shiny badge.
Right.
What matters is if this program actually equips you with the skills employers are looking for.
Oh, okay.
One promising sign is that they boast a 95% pass rate for those certifications on the first try.
Wow.
Plus, their materials mention people seeing, on average, a 20% salary bump after completing the program.
Okay, so those numbers definitely caught my eye too.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are those sought-after skills?
Right.
What will you actually learn in this program?
One thing they emphasize is the practical application of Scrum principles.
Okay.
They're not just throwing theory at you. They actually give you the tools and techniques to implement what you learn immediately.
So it's applicable.
Exactly.
That's a lot.
For example, they have a whole section on daily scrums,
Okay.
which are these short daily meetings designed to keep everyone on the same page and address problems quickly.
Wait, hold up. Daily scrums?
Yes.
For someone who's completely new to this,
Sure.
break that down for me. What
Okay.
does that even look like?
Imagine you and your team first thing in the morning, huddled for like 15 minutes max. You go around each person sharing what they did yesterday, what they're tackling today, and any roadblocks they're hitting. That's a daily scrum in a nutshell.
Okay, I see how that could be helpful. Instead of letting problems fester for days, you're tackling them head-on as a team.
Exactly.
No wonder they're claiming those big productivity boosts. But isn't that a lot of meetings? I could already hear the groans from my colleagues.
That's a common concern, but the materials actually address that head-on. They explain that these daily scrums are designed to be quick-focused and even a little bit fun. It's about keeping everyone in sync and moving forward, not getting bogged down in endless discussions.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay?
You mentioned those hefty price tags. We're talking hundreds of dollars, right?
Right.
And while those potential salary increases sound amazing, that's a big investment up front.
And that's where choosing the right tier comes in. They're very upfront about the value proposition of each level. The starter kit, for example, is a much smaller investment, and it's designed to give you a taste of Scrum fundamentals. It's perfect if you're just dipping your toes in the water and want to see if it's the right fit for you.
Okay, so there's a low-risk option to test the waters.
Exactly.
I like that. But let's say you're ready to dive in head first. What makes the more expensive tiers, the Meteor and Senior levels, worth the extra cash?
They go beyond the basics and really delve into the practical application of Scrum in different scenarios and industries. They provide templates, case studies, even simulations to help you master those real-world skills. Plus, those higher tiers unlock additional certifications, which, as we mentioned, can significantly boost your earning potential.
So it's like the more you invest, the more specialized your knowledge and credentials become. But let's be real. Not everyone has hours each day to dedicate to an online course, no matter how awesome it is.
Absolutely. And that's something they address directly. They emphasize the program's flexibility, allowing you to learn at your own pace on your own schedule.
So no need to quit your day job or morph into a night owl just to keep up with the curriculum.
Exactly. They even highlight their mobile-friendly platform so you can squeeze in a lesson on your lunch break or during your commute.
Now that's convenient. But let's talk about accountability.
Okay.
We've all been there, right? You sign up for an online course with the best of intentions, but life gets in the way and you never quite finish it.
That's where their support system comes in. They've got discussion forums where you can connect with other learners, ask questions, and share your experiences. Plus, they offer live Q&A sessions with instructors and even virtual office hours for more personalized guidance.
Wow, so it's like having a whole Scrum support group right at your fingertips.
Yeah, they really emphasize that community aspect.
I can see how that would make a huge difference, especially when you're tackling new concepts.
Mhm.
But let's face it, even with all the support in the world, this stuff can be challenging, right?
You're right, it's not a walk in the park. They're upfront about that, which I appreciate. They even dedicate a whole section in their FAQ to common challenges people face when implementing Scrum. It's like they've anticipated your doubts and are right there with you, offering solutions and guidance.
That's reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than feeling like you're the only one struggling. But it sounds like they've really gone above and beyond to create a program that's both comprehensive and supportive.
Absolutely. They even offer a unique bonus with the senior tier,
Okay.
a personalized career coaching session.
Oh, wow.
Imagine getting tailored advice on how to leverage your newly acquired Scrum skills to land your dream job.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about.
Right?
That personalized touch could make all the difference, especially in a competitive job market. It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
Exactly. But remember, it's not just about landing the job, it's about thriving in it. And that's where the true value of this program shines through. They equip you with more than just the technical skills. They instill the agile mindset, which is all about adaptability, collaboration, and continuous improvement. These are invaluable assets in any role in any industry.
Mm-hmm. So what does this all mean for you, our listener, eager to climb that career ladder? We've unpacked a ton of information about this Agile and Scrum blueprint, from its tiered structure and pricing to its real-world applications and support system. What have we learned?
Well, we've seen it's not just another online course promising you the moon. It's a comprehensive, well-structured program designed to give you a competitive edge in a world that's increasingly embracing agile methodologies.
They've got a money-back guarantee if you're not convinced, flexible learning options to fit your busy schedule, and a supportive community to cheer you on every step of the way. But the million-dollar question remains, is this program right for you?
That's something only you can decide. But hopefully this deep dive has given you the clarity and confidence to make an informed decision. Remember, the future of work is agile, and with the right skills and mindset, you can be at the forefront of that change.
And on that note, we encourage you to revisit the materials armed with this fresh perspective. Maybe even jot down those career goals you have and see how this program aligns with your unique ambitions. Until next time, happy learning.